All right, folks. So today we're going to be looking at each other's writing. We're going to do some peer editing, and we're going to specifically focus on questions. Okay, coming up with questions about writing. So far we've looked at the different parts of a story. We've talked about the beginning, where you have your setting and your characters. We talked about the middle, where you've got your conflict, or your problem and your climax. And then we looked at the conclusion, okay, how it finished up, what actually happened in the story. All right? And some of you are still working on putting those pieces together. And what we're going to do today, actually, is you're going to get with a partner, and you're going to be asking questions about writing, okay, about your partner's writing. Now, sometimes when you look at a writing piece, you might not be sure what kind of questions you have. So we're going to brainstorm a list of questions today. So I want you to look right up here so that you can see the list of questions we're coming up with. All right, make sure you're looking right up here. So basically, when you're asking your partner questions, I'm going to give you some questions to get started with, and then I'm going to see if you have any more that might go good with these. All right, so for questions about writing, we can start with the setting. Okay, so you're going to be looking at your partner's setting. And your settings are going to be where questions. Okay, where is that? Where was that? Where did it happen? Where were you? Okay, those setting questions are going to start with where. Okay, and one of you asked me a question yesterday about my story. Okay, where is Ibaraki Prefecture? Okay, and actually I think that was probably a what question, wasn't it? So that's another question. What? Because sometimes you guys are writing about things that I certainly don't know much about, like dirt biking or snowmobiling or some of that really cool stuff, even your football or your dragons or other stuff that you write about that I don't know much about. So when I read your story, make sure you're looking right up here so you don't miss the lesson, okay? When I read your story, sometimes I have questions like, what is the dirt bike 2000? Or what is the snowmobile XX43? Okay, I would not even know what that meant. Okay, and so that can help you clarify some of those things in your writing and make it more clear to your reader who knows nothing about snowmobiles or dirt bikes or dragons or other sorts of things. Okay, another great question. So I'm underlining the question parts. Another great question can come from your characters. Okay, think in your head for a minute what kind of question might come from your characters. Can anybody think of one? Raise your hand. I don't want you to shout it out, but raise your hand. Can anybody think of a question we might start a character with? Characters are going to be people or animals. Does your question start with a W? Yeah? How about who? Okay, because you might mention somebody in your story. Okay, and I might ask you, who is Alice? Who is Elisa? Right? We have no idea. Okay? So I don't know who those people are. So that's another great question to ask, especially if you read somebody and you're like, I wonder who that is. Sometimes, I know in your third grade stories, random people just appear because you remembered some detail. Okay? That's not a bad thing, but we have to talk about it a little bit. We have to explain it a little bit for our readers. Are you getting all this? Good.
Yes.
All right. So then, when? So sometimes it might not be clear when something happened. Okay, so when was that? So you can do a when question. All right, and especially we work on making sure your stories are in order. I've conferenced with a handful of you already, and we've changed the order of things around a little bit to make sure that you got the flow right, okay? So you want to make sure that the problem gets introduced, and then we talk about the things that happened after the problem that built up to the climax. Okay, we don't want to talk about the end of the story first. Okay, if you've got all of your things a little mixed up, your partner can help you clarify that. So you can ask, when was that? And think about if maybe you need to mix things around a little bit. Okay, another question you can ask is why? And why is a great question because you might do things in your story that don't make a lot of sense to a reader, but you can clarify them. And a lot of times you can clarify them with just a sentence. All right? And then how? How did that happen? All right? I was reading one of your stories, and I was glad that I asked how it happened, because I didn't even realize, I'm not going to say the story specifically, but in the story, something had happened with actually another person, okay, like a mom or a dad or somebody. I had thought it happened with the person who was writing it. So I was very confused until I asked, how did that happen? Okay, so I want you to look at this list, and I want you to think if there might be other questions that you might add to this list. But this is a great list to get you started if you're not sure how to start, okay?